Welcome to Kindred, hosted by me, Kate, and my sister, Jen. In this podcast, we explore our human relationship to the natural world. In connecting to this planet, we also connect to understanding, compassion, and empathy. How can we see ourselves as not separate or above animals in nature, but a critical and integrated part of an active ecosystem? Through conversations with animal advocates, scientists, conservationists, and many others, we look to inspire a new awareness of how and why we connect to animals in nature in order to repair and restore our relationship to the natural world. Hello, and welcome to the real Kindred podcast. You know, like...
The real Kindred?
Well, not like the fake Kindred, but you know how like people say, I guess it's famous people, like the real whoever.
Yeah, right.
Like the
Housewives
real
of Beverly Hills.
Yes, like that, I think. And then they have that blue badge. Feel like we need that little blue badge by our name. But like, how do you even get one of those? I think we'd probably have to buy ours.
It should be pretty fancy, I think, to get a badge. Yeah, we might not be fancy enough.
Wait, what? We're not fancy enough?
Ask my daughters; they'll tell you how you get a badge. I have no idea.
All right, where's it?
We have
millennial?
No idea.
Is there a millennial in the room? Anyone?
Exactly.
Please tell us. All right, Cat Gaddy, producer.
Yeah,
let's
Cat
work
knows.
on our blue badge.
Stat.
Yes, we'll have to see. I'm not sure we have enough followers. Is maybe what it is. So we'll have to work on that on our Instagram account.
Right.
Speaking of followers, do you, dear listeners, follow our podcast? Have you tapped that little check in the upper right-hand corner on your feed? Because it's very helpful for us if you do. And it means all of our episodes just immediately download into your feed, which is great. And have you left us a review? And that's something that would be very helpful also. Reviews are easy and quick. You can rate us. And Apple Podcasts loves that a lot. They like to... it gives us more visibility through them. So please review us, please follow us. And it takes mere seconds, right? Isn't it so fast? Whenever I do it for other podcasts, it's literally like 48 seconds or less.
Right. And a podcast is something I actually will rate and review. When Amazon asked me to please rate my experience of my package being left on my front door, I'm like, do I actually have to do that? It was just left on my front door. But this makes more sense to me. So I will take the time.
Right. Or they leave it somewhere that I've never found that I even existed
at my neighbor's house. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's your rating. So yes, that would be all very helpful. And speaking of blue badges, I feel like the distinguished animal we are talking about today should certainly get one. Don't you agree? Because Today we are talking all about seahorses. That's a little surprising animal that maybe you didn't expect me to say. And introducing us to this amazing little fish that looks like a horse mermaid is Kirsty-Jo Muddiman, who is the representative for the Seahorse Trust and coordinator of the Malta Seahorse Project. So we are heading to the island of Malta, which is in the Mediterranean Sea, and it's tucked right between southern Italy and the top of Africa. So it's part of this. I think is an archipelago. I don't know. There's a part of these.
That's fancy enough for a blue badge, probably.
Yes, I agree. And Kirsty-Jo has quite a long list of seahorse attributes that are quite astonishing, to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. There's just something about the seahorse for me that conjures up images of distinction and intelligence, and an animal that really isn't in any hurry, nor should it be. I don't know. They just have such a stoic energy, and I can't wait to learn more all about them. So, and I also think too, like when we talk about animals like octopuses and seahorses, like they're so different from us, but there always ends up being something that I can relate to with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking the seahorse will be no difference. What's that thing they put on your eye so you can see? What's that little? I feel like they need one of those little.
A monocle?
A monocle. Yeah. Instead of a
or like
instead of
just
glasses,
like
you just
one.
have
Yeah.
one little
Uh-huh.
thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what how and they wear maybe like I don't know,
A top hat.
a tweed vest or something.
I
These little
feel like
guys.
either some kind of hat, fedora, not
Mm-hmm.
fedora, but like a
Mm.
bowler
Something.
hat,
Maybe a
something.
bowler hat. Yeah, I don't know. We should
They're
respect
fancy.
these.
They're
Yeah, real
definitely fancy.
fancy. So, all right. So let's head to Malta and see what the Malta Seahorse Project has in store for us today. See you at the takeaway. Kirsty-Jo, hello. Welcome to Kindred, and thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Hi, and thanks for having me. It's great to
Yeah,
be here.
absolutely. It's our pleasure. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Okay, my name's Kirsty-Jo Muddiman. I am the representative for the Seahorse Trust in Malta, Gozo, and Camino, which is the Maltese archipelago, which is a small group of islands to the south of Italy and just to the north of Africa in the Mediterranean Sea.
Very good. All right. Well, that sounds like a lovely place to be. I've never been to Malta. Um, I feel like it needs to be on our go-to list now. So I have to say, I have been really intrigued with these exotic little horsefish since I was little. Um, a bit of a macabre story, but when Jen and I were young, somehow she had been given a little dried seahorse. Jen, do you remember this?
Hmm. Like it was, yeah, it wasn't even just a skeleton. It was definitely like looked like a seahorse, just like dried. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
definitely was. It was a dried seahorse. It was, and I think, you and I thought it was a little gross and weird.
Kind of
So
fascinating though, too.
kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes, never forgot it. Had it for a very long time. So today we are very much looking forward to breathing life into our very limited experience and knowledge of these unique and quite surprising sea creatures with you today, Kirsty-Jo. So thank you for being here.
you're more than welcome. And I can share my story here too. When I was younger, my grandmother brought me and my cousin home two really small dried seahorses, and I had the same feelings as you. It was fascinating, but at the same time a little bit unbelievable, and a little bit gross, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what else would you get that's an animal that's dry? Like why? I wonder why that was a thing.
Well, I just think because they're so fascinating, it
Yeah.
reminded me of sort of the Victorian kind of things in cases that
Right. The
like
oddities. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
the
Yeah. Like
kind
Well,
the
of
little specimens.
mermaids
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
things.
and it's true when you look them up, they are called, and they're called fascinators, which is just so odd. I think it's that weird. Yes. Anyway, we're going to get into that later. Um, but to start, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind um, starting us off with a little bit about the Malta Seahorse Trust. Why was it founded, and what are the project's main objectives and conservation initiatives?
Okay, so the Seahorse Trust has been around in the UK since 2004, and I moved to Malta 2020. And when I found my first seahorse, I reported it to the trust. So they have a database.
Okay.
Um, and at that point, I kind of got roped into roped into sort of looking after the project here. It had been stagnant for a while, and at the time, I was working with wildlife rescue team, and that was kind of coming to an end. So I was ready for a new challenge in my voluntary hours. So I saw my first one in October 2021.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, in Malta, that is. I did
Okay.
see it in Lanzarote before that.
Right.
But our mission's really to protect and conserve the marine habitat. It's using the seahorse as a sort of flagship species because of people's interest in them.
Mm.
And we're researching the populations here in Malta. And we want to, in so protecting them, it's really critical that we educate as we go along, and advocate for these weird and wonderful creatures.
Can you just explain a little bit when you say flagship species? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's kind of it's a species that grabs people's attention that people really love. So really great flagship species are ones that evoke emotions in people, like pandas. They're
Okay.
not really
Right.
typical of a great big area, and they're not easy to monitor. They don't give us very much biological data of the whole ecosystem necessarily,
Okay.
but they're ones that people can attach themselves to.
I see. So it's sort of like they sort of represent needs within a bigger ecosystem, not just their specific species, but their whole kind of where they live
Yeah,
and
kind of
okay.
a poster child, really.
Aha. Yeah, well, they're a good little poster child. They are the cutest little
Yeah.
things. So introduce us to seahorses. Talk to us about what they look like, what they're made of, their personalities, and just what sets them apart from other marine species.
They're really odd. They're kind of, like the platypus species that have so many different things, just weird and wonderful. So
Yes.
their Latin name, they're all in the genus Hippocampus, and hippo means horse, and campus means sea monster. They've been depicted really, I mean, they draw the carriage of Poseidon. There's all kinds of myths and legends around them. They are a true bony fish, and they have gills and fins, and they have a swim bladder to control their buoyancy. But they do have a fused jaw, so they're unable to open and close their mouth.
Interesting. So yeah,
Which,
they are actually fish, but so they
yes,
have a fused jaw. Interesting.
That is
Okay.
interesting. So they just like suck food in through their
yeah.
little opening? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to send you some links afterwards, but I've got
Oh,
a
great.
really cool video of one sort of just doing just that, sort of stealthily ambushing its prey and yeah, just sucking it up really quick.
Oh, very cute. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay.
So they have a prehensile tail as well, and this was kind of strange for me because I've been rescuing chameleons here, and they have a prehensile tail as well. So I could see the similarities between these two species. And they have eyes that can independently move, the same as a chameleon. And they
Interesting.
can change
Oh,
colour.
that's so interesting.
And they can change their colour the same as a chameleon. But the evolutionary path of both of these creatures is really, really different. You've got a
Right. And like
red
octopus, they
fish.
do the same. They have their color changing patterns.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Okay. Okay.
It's crazy. I had no
I'm more
idea.
curious. Like, these just get weirder and weirder, better and better, I should say.
I'm only halfway down my list.
Okay, yeah,
Wow.
keep going.
Okay, so they have a pouch for gestation, and it's the males that experience true pregnancy.
Wow.
Okay. You give us every detail of this. This is fascinating to me.
Okay, so the female has an ovipositor, which introduces the egg, the ovum, into the male's pouch where it is fertilized, and a true pregnancy happens, and the male experiences labor. And if you Google that and watch the seahorse giving birth to the live young, and you've actually given birth yourself, you can see the contractions, and you can almost feel the pain. They really
Wow.
do it. Yeah.
Okay, so
wait.
yeah,
Pause
exactly.
there. What
Yeah.
opens up? Like what is like it would because it seems like the pouch should just be able to like bloop and pop it out. And that would be nice
they've
if
got
women could do that.
a small opening on the pouch, and they have
Wow.
to squeeze the young out. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so
Crazy.
here's a female, and she sort of like drops her eggs, and then she inseminates them, sort of.
She has an ovipositor, so it looks like a penis on the female, but it's not. It's more like a insects have them. It's just
okay.
a tube to deposit
Yeah,
the
tube,
egg.
right.
Yeah, it's a tube. Yeah.
And they are
Okay.
still, the female is female. They're still considered
Yes.
female, and male is male. And so then he grows these they're live babies, right? And they grow, and then he actually goes through labor and gives birth. Okay, world, let's just
Wow.
pause on that, ladies, for 1 second.
Is that the only I don't feel like I've ever heard of another species doing that.
I think it might be. I'm not going to say
Maybe not in the
for
fish
sure.
world. I'm curious.
I mean,
I
what
do
world
feel like
would
I've
be?
heard that it is the only one, but I'm not going to say for definite because I'm not totally sure.
Okay,
So
we'll
part
fact check
kangaroo,
that.
part chameleon, part horse, part
Yeah, exactly.
monkey. Yeah,
That's right.
prehensile tail.
So,
Wow.
and they can't swim all that well, right? They try to
No, they
move
don't.
with the
They have
flow
really-
of.
They have really low mobility, so they've got a dorsal fin on the back, and they've got a pectoral fin, which is kind of on the back of the head here, each
Yeah.
side.
Okay.
And then they've got a really tiny anal fin, and they don't move well, but they are a very stealthy ambush predator. So the link to this video that I can send to you shows the sort of seahorse stealthily approaching. Yes, they are an ambush predator. So
Okay, interesting.
Stealthily approach their prey, and then the speed of their head movement has to be slowed down on video for you to be able to see it.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
So do they kind of strike? Like
Yes.
their neck stretches out? Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Weird.
That's incredible.
Mm.
Okay. So they're predators. They're very territorial. Are they social animals?
They're social with their mate. So the male holds a territory. The female is less attached to a territory.
Okay.
And some of the research that we have indicates that the female actually goes around a few different males. So the male is loyal and monogamous with the female, but the female may not be in return.
Okay. And how long do these little guys live?
We have no idea is the truth.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the two species that I look at, there's only two species in these waters, the spiny and the short-snouted. We believe in the region of about 7 years, but honestly, there is no data to support that because the data we have is aquarium based and
Aha, right. So it's in captivity.
Right,
They're
yeah,
7-ish
right.
years.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. Wow. So the one other thing you told me about, you talked about the males and females meeting and their dance display, and that tell us a little bit about that moment.
So they have a bond reinforcement ritual where in the morning at sunrise, they will meet up and they will move up the water column together, facing each other to just reinforce those kind of bonds. And if the male has recently given birth, even that day, the female will impregnate again.
Wow.
Wow. So this is basically the opening scene to a Disney Pixar
Yes.
movie. I don't know why I mean, I'm sorry, I can already hear Ariel singing and they're swirling up and
Yes.
loving each other in the sunrise. What's more romantic than that? Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then
so how many times a year do they get pregnant? I mean, how long is a gestation for a seahorse?
For the spiny seahorse, it's about 28 days.
Oh, very quick. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
poor
And
man.
Poor man
Yeah.
said no one ever. So there's the first time. Yeah.
You heard it here on Kindred first.
You heard it here first. Poor man seahorse. Oh, that must be hard
Shocking out
for
of
him.
my mouth.
Yeah.
So they'll breed seasonally. We don't know about the waters here because the waters here are quite a lot warmer. More research has been done in the UK where the seahorses migrate into deeper water over winter.
Okay, so it's seasonally they're mating and reproducing, not like every 24 hours, 365 days a year.
We think so.
Yeah.
We think so.
I mean, I think that would be wholly impossible, but you never know. Okay, well, that's interesting. Wow, they are just fascinating little creatures. Is there anything else on your list? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just one last thing, which sounds as trivial now, that they have skin and not scales.
What?
So,
that's not trivial. Wait. Skin like who else
like our
has
skin? So it's all one piece. So they don't have scales and they don't shed scales like fish would.
Do they do? Sorry, that's a whopper. So do they shed skin and regrow their skin cells and all those kind of things like we do?
In exactly the same we do, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, not like a snake where they do once a year.
No,
okay.
no.
Okay, wow. That is incredible. Wow. I mean, what we didn't know about, we knew we didn't know anything about these little guys, and boy, didn't we. That's incredible. So switching gears a little bit, I think very few species, there are very few species today that aren't struggling in one form or another. And I know that the seahorses are no exception. And, they just seem so vulnerable, maybe in part because of their biology and morphology. So talk to us about the major challenges that seahorses face today.
Well, the major problem is that they have discrete habitats, so they stay in one place, the males do. because of their, I'm going to call it semi-monogamous behavior.
Okay.
And the true pregnancy, all of these things together with the low mobility means that they've got very specific places that they can live. And if they get displaced, it's a huge impact because they have to have an anchor. They can't have strong currents. If they lose a mate in that season, then there may not be any other spare females around and about.
Okay.
So it's a really difficult, any pressure that they're going to feel it quite greatly.
Now, just to pause for 1 second. So where are they? They're located like if you're standing on the beach, like how deep generally are they in the grassy areas and the coral of the ocean?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
So in the UK, we see them in less than a metre of water. So in the seagrass, they come right up to shore there, and you can accidentally pick them up in your bucket and spade if you're at the beach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we don't have so many sandy beaches, but they're very shallow. And our deepest sighting has been 66 meters. Obviously, that's based on the diver's capability, so they could actually be deeper.
Right. No, fair. Now, are they sort of vulnerable to flooding and then erosion then? If they're kind of close to the shore?
Not particularly. I mean, they are obviously all animals are kind of susceptible to eutrophication, so the introduction of nutrients into the water that aren't supposed to be there. But I've read conflicting research, and most of my research is in the Mediterranean. I will keep stipulating that because I'm not an expert on Indonesian pygmy seahorses or anything like that.
For sure, fair, yep.
But in the Mediterranean, we're seeing two kind of different situations. The pollution, if it's nutrient rich, can actually increase the prey for the seahorses, so it can have a beneficial effect.
Interesting.
But if it's toxic, shall we say, obviously that has a detrimental effect. If it reduces oxygen levels in the water, that kind of thing. So pollution's a big problem, but not as much as the other things that I think. There's rising sea temperatures, and I'm not going to talk about that too much because there's a lot of information out there, and whatever applies to any other species applies to these species as well.
Okay, I was going to ask about rising ocean temps. So yes, the answer is yes, it affects them, of course.
It does affect them, yeah.
Okay. Does that push them into cooler areas or?
Well, all of what I'm going to say is really anecdotal because it's really early days, and these are really difficult species to research because you can't see them.
Right. They're hard to
and
study.
They're really difficult to find. But in the last 2 years, my own research has shown a really steep decline in the short-snouted species, which may be due to rising sea temperatures. And we're also seeing increases of reports in the north of Europe, in the Atlantic, which there may be lots of different reasons for that. Even just an increased awareness of the reporting system in the Scandinavian countries may be the reason, but it could also be that the seahorses are moving north to cooler waters.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, a lot of other species are doing that.
Do they have natural predators that eat them? Are they?
That's really interesting. I've got a note about that later. They don't really have a specific natural predator. They have I can't think of the term. They have sort of predators that would take them by chance.
I gotcha. If they're available, yeah.
So opportunistic. That's the word I was thinking of.
Right. Yes, that makes sense. Interesting. So then, what about like wildlife corridors? We talk about that with other conservationists, and the migration patterns being interrupted. Is that an issue for them?
Again, we don't really know, but yes, we think so. So the seahorses are genetically discrete, and that's what we say. But what we're really meaning is they all live in, if I can use a sort of human analogy, they all live in little villages, and they don't tend to breed from different villages. And so they do move between places, but not very often. And you see some in the Mediterranean, some groups of seahorses are really conservative in that they don't have a genetic diversity, if you like.
Right.
Others do. So the wildlife corridors, it can be a really big issue from anchoring, dredging. If they don't have that coverage, that protection, they aren't going to swim.
Right. And then you might
They can't swim fast.
Right. And they're not very good swimmers, so they're not going to go very far even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then does that maybe bring in issues of inbreeding?
Absolutely, yeah.
Ah,
Yes. So genetic diversity is really low in seahorses. So if we did a breed and release program, we would really need to do a breed and release program from seahorses that are already here,
okay.
because they are genetically adapted to be in this specific place. It's almost like watching evolution happening at this current time.
Interesting. Wow, that's fascinating. Um, so then one thing we always like to talk about with exotic sort of species like these is the human wildlife conflict. And I'm specifically talking about, the illegal international trade and how they end up in the quote unquote medicinal industry. Talk to us about those challenges. And now I'm thinking back to what Jen and I were talking before, the seahorse that she had.
Well,
Like,
right.
this has been going on forever.
And not only
Exactly.
that, but not only the dried ones, but I'm old enough to remember when you could order them like from the back of a magazine and they would mail order them to you, like to put in an aquarium.
Yeah, wow.
Like,
And you
so,
still can. You still can.
okay. So that's
Yeah.
another issue. Yeah.
Because they
So
just seem to be disappearing at like an astonishing rate for a very long time.
yes.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we'll start with the one that we have really the least control over, which is the Eastern medicine trade. So there's a really great documentary on Netflix. I don't know whether you guys will get it. You may need to use a VPN, but it's called Seahorse Man, and it's a guy
Say
called
that again. What's it called?
It's called Seahorse Man.
Seahorse Man. Okay. We'll put a link up to that if we can.
Okay. And it's a guy called Keelan Doyle, and he's an Irishman. He goes over to China kind of on the pretense of being able to farm seahorses to see what the market demand is for them.
Okay.
Really, they would take as many as you could produce. It's really a huge market.
Do you know
And
what they're used for?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
It's traditional medicine, and I'm not going to pretend to understand Chinese medicine, but I
That's
think
fine. Yeah.
the usual ailments, that long list of things that they claim it can cure.
Wow.
Wow. So do you have any idea of how your world is sort of fighting against this? Is there any way to monitor this?
Well, they are on the protected species list, so transport over borders is legal.
Okay.
But it's a really difficult thing to enforce.
Yeah.
And really, it's past the general public's control, really. This trade that's going straight from the sea to being dried to going over to export in China is really something at a governmental level that needs dealing with. It's nothing that you and I can really influence in our spending habits, in our even our voting habits.
Yeah.
It's not on the table, you know?
Right.
And I imagine that their size might be part of that challenge because it's so easy to transport them. You don't need like, it's not like lions or something like that. I mean, they're so tiny. You could just put them in an envelope, and that seems
or
much
like
harder.
a rhino. We talked to, like if you talk to rhino people, it's not like a rhino horn or a tusk, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're wow. Yeah. So what about bycatch and like with industrial fishing or even local fishermen? How do they play into this?
Okay, so if we can take a step back first to the two things that we can really control that's a threat, which is the aquarium trades that Jen said, if you are keeping seahorses in aquaria at home, just make sure that they're captive bred. It's really important. I mean, even from the point of view of introducing all kinds of disease and viruses into your aquaria, you're taking the resources from nature that really need to be left in nature.
Right.
There are enough species and breeding colonies of these throughout the world for you to be able to use that route if keeping seahorses is what you want to do.
So there is a legal way to do that. It's just okay. I was wondering. Okay.
That's helpful.
And then the curios, like the little things that Jan and I had, but you can see all kinds of things cast in resin and snow globes and all kinds of things. if you see these, there is a way to report them. So the Seahorse Trust has been working with eBay recently,
Oh,
and to make sure that they aren't being sold on eBay. Certainly in the UK and Europe, that is. But if you do see these things being sold, there is a form to report this on the Seahorse Trust website.
okay.
They will take this up on your behalf,
That's great.
and try and make progress to get them off sale.
Right. That's good to
So
know.
they're two things that we can all do.
That is great.
So then, yeah, then let's talk about the local fishing and bycatch sort of on like local fishing levels and to industrial levels. How does that play into their little lives?
Yeah, I mean the industrial fishing is a problem, and they are caught as bycatch. The thing is that because they're so valuable economically, they're less likely to be thrown back in as bycatch because the fishermen see the monetary value, and certainly the small fishermen here, I would suspect that extra money is really useful for them.
Yeah.
There is a film called Lutsu, which I can give you the link to as well, which kind of tells the story of the sort of the lone Maltese fishermen and the regulations that Europe have put on them, which is restricting their ability to earn a living. Now, there's pros and cons to all of this. There's environmental, there's financial, all kinds of things, and I'm not judging any of that.
Right.
But it does mean that fishermen are put in a position where catching a seahorse is an extra 50 euros, 100 euros. And if you're struggling to feed your family,
That's a lot of money.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you're saying like a bit that industry is kind of driving that. So all this sort of government industry, these regulations are sort of encroaching on local fishermen, which we've heard many times before. This is happening, it seems like a lot of places. And then, of course, if you're out there with your nets and you're doing your thing and you get 10 seahorses, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
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 And also if you don't make a catch that day and you know there's a place where you can go and get the seahorses, it's an income. So I
It's
can
an
totally
income.
understand. I don't get the feeling that this is, mass deliberate poaching.
Right. Nefarious poaching. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And then how do you even where are they even selling them? I mean, it's like this whole world of connection. Yeah.
Totally has to be on the black market. I mean, it is illegal here,
Right.
it's illegal everywhere in Europe. You can't buy them, you can't sell them, you can't ship them over borders. So
which makes them more valuable too.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so crazy. Well, yeah, it's good to talk about that. And there's the local fishermen and the local, poaching, all of these, everything that kind of falls under poaching isn't just as black and white as you might think it is.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It's
the drivers, are way up top and way far away often. So it is complicated, and we do leave room and space for the local experience and trying to feed your family, support yourself in your life. So it really is important to sort of keep that a little bit of that balance there. At least ask questions. There's a lot to be asked there.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know the whole story. I don't think anybody does.
Right.
It's because it's on the black market is a difficult thing to ask questions about.
Yeah, for sure. So one reason we wanted to speak with you today was because that we believe that species like the seahorse are a gauge or barometer to the health of an ecosystem. And often it's like the little guys that are kind of overlooked. But in fact are just super critical to contributing to the overall health and welfare of their ecosystem and, of course, the planet. So talk to us about why seahorses are so important and valuable to their ecosystems.
Sure. So like we talked about earlier with Jen, they don't have many natural predators. They're not soft. They're not easy to eat. They aren't easy to see. So there's easier meals to catch. So they don't have a predator that's out there looking for seahorses. And so they've been allowed to evolve based on the assumption that once they become adult, there's low adult mortality. Once you make it to being full-sized, you've got a pretty good chance of being able to live to produce several thousand, probably, young.
Right.
So when you introduce something that then affects that adult stage, like trawling or fishing or anything like that, it has a really big effect on the population, because the population security is based on having a number of adults reproducing.
Right.
And because they have this territorial nature, like we touched on earlier, if you take some of those adults out, they aren't necessarily going to be quickly replaced. So they do have lots of young, and they have lots of young several times during the season. So they could be having thousands per pair. Whilst the juvenile success rate is quite low, that aids natural selection and keeps them genetically strong. So that they don't lay eggs.
Right.
So they're young, their eggs aren't susceptible to predation. So that their approach is successful, providing that the adult mortality remains really low.
Okay.
So really, they will be susceptible to change really quickly, quicker than some other species maybe, because fishing doesn't disturb the eggs. Pollution doesn't necessarily affect other species in the same way that it might do the seahorse, because they can't move on to different places.
Right.
You put a sewage pipe in an area that's churning out, domestic waste with lots of surfactants, or you've got a lot of tourists that are wearing a lot of sunscreen, anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
And
They can't go away from that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you're in a sheltered bay. They've got a really tough journey ahead of them to find somewhere new. And because the number of places that they can survive is sort of limited, they may arrive and that territory's already been taken. So if you take the territory away, you're really taking away, you're really reducing the numbers.
Yeah, we talked about sunscreen before in other episodes, where it really is that gets into their little systems. So you've got all these seahorses in this one little area. Like, how do they what do they do to contribute to their ecosystem? Like, is it what they eat? Is it their predatory behavior? How do they contribute to keeping their ecosystem balanced?
They're really an apex predator in their own little realm. So
I love that.
They don't function as prey. So they're not feeding a bigger species. They are their little apex predator in the algae or the seagrass.
Okay.
Or they're eating a shrimp. So it's a really close food cycle. You've got sort of algae and small organisms, then you've got the shrimp and the copepods, and that's what the seahorses are eating. So in terms of what they contribute, it's quite selfish.
Okay.
It's a small niche of ecosystem, really.
But that makes sense, because that's what predators do. They keep the ones below them in check. So that's really interesting. Okay. And then, so if they're eating shrimp and all the little guys, are they in competition with is the competition high then? Because it seems like a lot of animals and species eat shrimp and krill and all those little guys.
Yeah, I think that they're very specifically after things at the bottom of the sea. They don't eat anything in the water body because they can't swim. So they kind of anchor themselves to the seagrass or the algae. And the footage that I've seen of them eating is shrimps, mysid shrimps and things in the sand and sediment. So that it's quite a specific area of where they're going to be hunting.
And I don't imagine they need too much to get full, because they're so tiny.
Well, they can be. The biggest one that we had recorded this year was about 30 centimeters.
What's that in? How big is that?
Oh, that's about
pretty big.
Inches, 12 inches.
Ooh,
That's the tail uncurled. Yeah.
That's huge. I'd be like, that would freak me out to see one so big. That's big. Where do they live?
So that one was seen in the Atlantic. So the colder the water, the bigger they are.
The bigger. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that would be opposite to me. The colder I am, the smaller I get, I'm pretty sure. So that is so interesting. So because they're So you said they're an apex predator within their ecosystem.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, it's like us. We're kind of apex predators, but a shark would have a bite, or a bear would. But we are
Right.
kind of, there's nothing really predates on us specifically
Oh, I love
Mhm.
that.
because they want to eat humans, and
Mhm.
seahorses are pretty much the same.
Oh,
I
that's
think
great.
I think the biggest thing that's really or the most prevalent thing that's going to eat a seahorse is something that is active at night at the same time as seahorses tend to be hunting out in
Hmm.
the open,
Okay.
something like a bull ray or something like that, but it's not specifically looking for seahorses.
And they have a hard exterior sort of exosystem. And so I feel like they must be like how I feel about eating kale. It's really scratchy and uncomfortable you have to chew them a lot and it's scratchy going down. So maybe no one likes to eat them.
I would imagine. I mean, octopus and rays and things do tend to like something that they can crack on the outside and have something soft in the middle.
Mhm.
Right.
And a seahorse isn't really that.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
I get the impression because they can change colour as well that they would taste bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that they
Yeah.
have that kind of appearance of don't eat me.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, and I hate kale, so I totally understand that. So, what? So you get to spend time with these animals and we don't, and not in a healthy way, like a dried up, crusty, gross one
Mm.
from our childhood. Um, what is your favorite moment or experience with a seahorse? Like what's one interaction that you've had that will always stick with you?
Well, to be honest, I don't see too many.
Okay.
So every experience is really special.
Yeah.
Um, Most of my data comes from citizen scientists. So Malta is really popular for divers, and we advertise
Uh-huh.
that we want people to report their data.
Okay.
That's the data that I work with. I do see them. My first one was in Lanzarote, and then here in Malta. They're the only two places that I've seen them in the wild. And
Hmm.
each one is a really special experience because they give me the same feeling as when you see a turtle because they are
Hmm.
calm and not moving. And I really get that feeling. It really makes me feel like I am the intruder. This is their
Mhm.
home. They
Hmm.
don't swim away from you unless you're really,
Yeah.
harassing them. They
Yeah.
aren't going to swim away. They are going to look at you. And because their eyes move, you kind of get that feeling that there's more going on
Mhm.
Yeah.
than your average fish. And they just, yeah, they remind me that this isn't my environment, this is their environment. And it is it's exciting, but very quickly calm because they are calm. And if you stay calm, you'll see more.
I
Mm.
love that. And maybe because they're so stationary, it gives you the impression that they have a quite a confidence and a stoicism about them. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's just sort of
they're
the
really
vibe
great
I
words,
get.
actually. Yeah, they are good words.
Interesting. Yeah, I would love to see one day. And I know what you mean. And do you feel like they're checking you out as much as you are checking them out?
Oh, absolutely. And my colleague in the UK, where they see far more, he says that when he's doing the survey, if he turns around, they can quite often be following him.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah,
Like, what are you? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
That's cute. Sizing you up. Maybe I
what is
can.
this squishy thing without any
Oh,
spines on them? Yeah,
yeah.
that can turn their heads, and
Hmm.
yeah, that's interesting.
Well, they really do have a vibe for them, and they're just so fascinating. They're just one of those otherworldly creatures that we just find so fascinating. So our last question we ask everybody, but it's my favorite question, is why is it so important to talk about and learn about species like seahorses? Like, why is this an important conversation to you?
I think for me, it's because everybody loves seahorses. So you can get people engaged and invested in them before you can start talking about some of the challenges. So there's so
Hmm.
much that's really interesting to talk about. And I think everybody kind of sees the picture and we've all had, I would guess, things in our childhood that are seahorse shaped, and there's lots of cartoons that are seahorses. And here, near the Mediterranean, there's lots of architecture and things that are seahorses. Um, and like I said earlier, I'm not going to talk about rising sea temperatures because we don't have enough data.
Mm,
But and it's outside of the immediate control of individuals. And I think, you can use the way you vote, you can use your, signing petitions, your power in that way. But for most of us, there isn't much that we can do. But with the seahorses, there is, because one of the biggest threats is the curios trade, second to the Chinese medicine. So you can, spend some time, 2 minutes doing an eBay search, a Facebook Marketplace search, a Craigslist search, to see what's out there and start reporting these and helping us to identify where these things are and what's going on. So it's a really nice way that you can actually contribute directly right now. They're not as under the table as rhino horn, for example. A lot of people still don't know that this is illegal and detrimental. So it's important to talk about that. So the poaching aspect, the taking out of the sea is the biggest thing. And also to just say, it's okay to keep seahorses in an aquarium if you want. There's no law against it, but it is illegal to take them from the nature to put them in the aquarium. And I would say if you're a good aquarium keeper, you don't really want to be putting things from the wild into tanks anyway.
Yeah, well, those are really interesting sort of like tips of how we can support them. And it's not often that we can take these sort of steps from my own computer, my own home to do that. I find that really sort of inspiring. So where can we find you and your project and support you? What's the best way to sort of keep tabs on what you're doing?
Okay, so the Seahorse Trust has a website. That's the UK-based charity. We're in the process of setting up a legal entity here in Malta so that we can take financial contributions. At the minute, we can't, but you can watch us on Facebook. So it's the Seahorse Trust Project Malta, and I can give you all links and things for that. And that's really where we are at the minute. We finished a couple of years of research that we did under the UK charity, and now we're starting a new chapter of we want to set up and directly have a legal entity here in Malta. But certainly all your reports can go to the Seahorse Trust. They will get taken seriously and they will get dealt with. And if you are a diver and you do see these seahorses, please also report them, because the more data we have, the better. And the Seahorse Trust run the global seahorse database. And they also have on their webpage some really useful information on how to experience them responsibly. No flash photography, no harassment, don't touch them, don't block their escape path. I mean, if you're a diver, you should be taking these measures anyway, but it's really super clear the rules and how to spot when a seahorse isn't happy. If it starts turning dark, if it reduces its profile, if it tucks its snout into its chin. So I think everybody wants to be responsible about this. Just a little education can really, really help.
Yeah, so basically just, it's sort of common sense. Don't be a jerk is really what it is to any of these little creatures. And, I find a species that the males carry live young and go through real labor are really a species that we should get behind. I'm really feeling like let's support our brothers and sisters in labor.
Campaign there, I'm sure.
Right? Don't you think, Jenny? Oh man, I mean, there's something special about those guys. Really,
it's still kind of crazy.
Taking women's lib to another level. So go Seahorses. Well, Kirsty-Jo, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an absolutely delightful conversation. I'm still imagining the Disney movie swirling and Ariel singing and all the whole chorus, and they're about to mate at the top of the sunset.
I'm going to try and find you a video with that on.
That'd be great. We can link that. Yeah.
Please do. Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for joining us today. We will also, we will share all the links that you send us on our website, and we'll be posting all about this episode for, as long as we can. So thank you so much. We appreciate the time and just talking about these incredible little seahorses. So thanks so much and good luck.
Thank you so much for your time and thanks for having me and helping me to spread the message.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, take care.
Great. Thank you. Take care.
Hey there, and welcome back to The Takeaway. OMG is all I can say about these little creatures. But a few things that hit me about everything that we learned about seahorses. And of course, aside from the amazing ability that male seahorses are able to give birth, LOL.
Right.
We certainly, that was astonishing. But it's the fact of how little we know about them, right? So, and we've come across this with other species before when we talk to people. It's just that they're so in our world, right? Like they're highly identifiable. People know what they look like. They're, oh, that's a seahorse, and we've kind of been fascinated with them for hundreds of years, if not thousands, right? So it's just sort of like it's that creature that we're familiar with, and yet we know nothing about, which is so interesting.
Yeah, dichotomy. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and exactly. I think anybody that you showed a picture to, I think most people would know what it was.
Yeah, I think so too.
Could you tell me 5 facts about it? Like I just, you've just heard. We were just like, oh my goodness, like just surprise after surprise after surprise about their life. And how they. Yeah.
And then also, it's such a human thing to do, that something we know so little about, except that we're bringing them almost to the brink of extinction, right? We don't know much about them, but we sure know how to harvest them and sell them and use them.
We want them. Yeah.
Well, it's just so human anyway.
Yeah.
And I think in sort of connection to that, also for me, was just because of all these things we're talking about, how vulnerable they are to human predation, and that we're kind of their only threat, because she was saying how nobody really eats them.
Right. And they don't taste good. They have weird crunchy outside, but there's not like a big bonus when you get past the crunchy exterior, she was saying.
I guess. I don't know. But but then you were saying before we started recording, like how they're an apex predator.
Right.
In their own little...
I know. Which again, surprising. Yeah. But
I mean, I just love them.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting, and it, like you said, it was really interesting that some questions we asked, she's like, we don't really know, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, this is kind of new. We're just starting to figure them out, and they're a little harder to study, and it just anyway, it was a really surprisingly fascinating conversation. Not that I didn't think it would be interesting, but I just was blown away.
Right. Who knew they had skin? Like, I don't know. Okay. All right. And on to the next. She's like, well, this isn't really that surprising. Like, yes, it is.
Well, they're like a chameleon in this way. They're like a this in this way. They're like a that in that way.
Tail. I know.
Yeah. They're just all over the place. They're a little bit of everything. Yeah.
I know. So, and she was also saying too, if you're out and about and you happen to come across one, that you can email, I think it was, the Seahorse Trust, I think through their website, and the Malta Seahorse Project, to identify where they are to them. I certainly wouldn't announce that to anybody else, because I mean, location, that's highly sensitive, because we don't want them to go get, taken.
Right. But no, that actually makes a difference to them if people say, take the time to be like, hey, I saw a seahorse here. I'm
sure it's really helpful. So I think our next move is to start creating our animation film, don't you think?
There you go.
Of that scene of like, I mean, Disney hasn't gotten on it, so I think it's time for Kindred Industry to start their animation film. I mean, it's the perfect
they probably already started.
Seahorses.
They probably heard you. You know how they say once an idea gets out there.
Dang it!
Pops up somewhere else. So you
Dang it,
Pixar.
Get a
trademark. Get a trademark for your.
All right, get on that.
Exactly.
So yes, thanks so much to Kirsty-Jo and the Malta Seahorse Project for speaking with us today. For links and notes for this episode, you can head to our website, kindredpodcast.co. And please, if you feel so inclined, support us through subscriptions for only $4.99 a month. That goes a long way for us, and we super appreciate the support. And like I said, if you're out there and you see these little guys, report them to the Seahorse Trust and it's much appreciated. And let's help get these little guys, more data on them and learn more about them. So thanks everyone again for listening. Lots of love.
Bye.
Kindred is hosted by me and my sister Jen, produced by Kat Gaddy and myself, sound production and editing by Dan Cooper, original music by Ellie Grace, and our Kindred artwork was created by Lindsay Coffin. Please follow, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and feel free to contact us through our website at kindredpodcast.co, where you can also find details about Kindred Plus, our subscription service, as well as links to our social media accounts and show notes.